I can hear myself, man.
Can you hear me? Chris, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hello, welcome everyone to the very first weekly episode. My bad. Hello, welcome everyone to the very first weekly episode of The Other Side, where together with my guests we'll dive into some interesting or brutal stories that have forged our history, culture, and even our cinematography. Every week we will have a different subject, person, or act of which we will talk about. Today we will be speaking about the very first serial killer family registered to our knowledge. Today we are going to be talking about the Bloody Benders. Let me introduce my guest today. On one of our ends, we have Grimmzh. How are you, Grimmzh? Aquí andamos, very good. And on our other side, we have Twisted Phoenix, or Texas Nightmare. Texas Nightmare?
Hello? Yeah, it's Texas 9.
My bad, man.
Very good.
So, let me start off with this question, man. Have you guys heard about these of this family of these serial killers? Nah, not me.
No, I have not.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna dive into what they did, a little bit of history about them, and then if you guys have any questions, just go ahead and ask them during the show. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay, man.
Yep.
So, based on the name that I told you guys about, or based on the name that they were given, what do you think they did to get that name?
The Benders,
Yeah.
they bended people into pretzels.
So it's bloody. No, they're actually called the Bloody Benders. Benders being the
Probably
last name.
bend, the bodies or parcels or things like that, I guess.
Okay, so let's see how much of that actually does come out. Let's see if you guys hit any of the points there. So, let me just before we continue and explain what they did or how they went about, let me just put to you the time or the era in which this was happening, and this was in the 1600 mid 1600s to be exact. It was 1670 when they started or when they came about. And it was when America was barely expanding left or were starting to expand west. So they were in the mid territories. I think New Mexico was already starting up, or Texas was going into New Mexico, or still New Mexico was not even considered a part of the United States. So around that time and around that era is when this happened. So we're gonna I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys know there's four members of the family. The older gentleman is John Bender Sr. He was about in his 60s. He mostly spoke German. And most of the time he grunted just for the reason that he didn't know English. He was in charge of working the land, even though the land, like in their property, they never had anything planted. It was said he was said to be the mastermind of the idea or of everything that went on inside or how the killings went about. It was a weird family relationship, man, or guys, people. For the reason being that um, it is unknown if they were even related. Like supposedly, this older gentleman was the lover of another part of the family, which we'll get into, which was to be believed that it was his son. Um, so that's the older gentleman. Then it was his wife, which name was Elvira Bender, which at all we know is that she spoke very little English or none until she needed to speak English. Basically, she was the one that would take care of them, as in the food, taking care of the cabin, taking care of making sure that everybody was okay. And then we have John Bender Jr., which is supposedly the son, but was also the lover of the youngest of all four of them, which is another female, and which was Kate. Kate was the all star of the family. She was the pretty one. She was the hot one. She was the one that spoke English the best. Supposedly, she would be the one that had psychic powers, and she would be the one that would make sure that everybody was lured in to the inn that the family ran. So this family ran a bed and breakfast um, at that time. That's basically their living. Like they made a cabin. In that cabin was divided. The front side of the cabin was divided into the kitchen, where the travelers or anybody coming into the town would buy food, would buy tobacco, gunpowder, and then the back of it was the inn, and they had like a bed and breakfast type of thing back then, which I guess it would be nice back then. Um, any questions up to now, guys? Anything sticking out to you?
They sound kind of like como la family de la movie esa Texas Chainsaw Massacre, más o menos me da finta, ¿no?
Yeah, kind of.
So actually, there is a movie about them called Benders. It came out in 2017. But yeah, man. So let's just jump straight into um basically the its and abouts of how they went about doing their things that they did on. So the operation was run mainly by the gentleman and the daughter. Okay. So in the whenever they settled in, and they made the cabin, they made sure that the daughter was the one that would lure in the customers to make them stay for the night. What the gentleman would do is they would stay in the outskirts of town, and they would pretend that they needed help, or they would start conversations with people coming in. So one of them would actually stay there talking to them. The son or the dad, whoever did wasn't occupied, they would go back with the daughter, and they would tell her, "Hey, these are the people. Like we already started talking to them," or they would pretend that they needed help to drag them back to the inn, and then the daughter would convince them to stay. Like the daughter was, she believed in free love. She didn't care who it was or what it was. She would just give love to. Like back then, the witches were still something that happened. So she pretended that she said she had psychic powers, and she would be able to speak to the people that had died. So a lot of these people like were immigrants, and they would have people that had passed away, like in another country. And she would pretend that she would talk to them, so that made them stay, which is awkward now if you think about it. So going into details about the cabin on. So once they got the people in the cabin, um, they were they showed them the room, I guess you would say, but that room is to be said that that room was never used by the people who actually stayed there. Like they said that like the people would just leave their stuff and then they would tell them, "Oh, let's go here, let's go there, or let me show you around town." And by the time they would get back, like those murders would happen. So a little bit of how the room were divided or how the cabin was divided. Ooh, hold on, guys. Something popped up. Can you guys hear me still?
You good?
I will hear you.
Oh, okay. So, how the house was divided, or how, yeah, how the house was divided. So the front of the cabin, like I said again, it was the store, it was the gunpowder, it was everything that you needed to survive. Now, the crazy story about this is that in some of the stories about these people, they kept on saying that they would feed the meat that was involved with their food would either be of human or of animals. Okay. But it is not there's no concrete evidence that this actually happened. There's no concrete evidence that these people like even did what they did up to now. Like in Kansas, there's actually an area where they said that it is to believe that this happened. But how everything started is um the way that they would operate would be the the senior built a place underground where only like specifically bodies would fit. On top of that, it was a trapdoor, and then on top of that, it would be the place where the victim, you could call, would sit down to eat dinner, and behind the chair there was a black curtain, and that black curtain would be either the senior or the junior, the gentleman, standing behind there with a hammer. Okay, so by the time they went out, they came back in and they fed them dinner before they would even start eating, or while they were eating. The gentleman that would stand behind the wall, he would hit them with the hammer, and whenever that came down, if they didn't die with the hit of the hammer, the female, whoever served them the food, would jump across the table and slice them with a knife.
Damn.
That's how they would do it. Now, the first time that they did it, nobody paid attention to them. The second time that they did it, nobody paid attention to them. Then the third time that they did it, um, people started noticing that people that would stay there were not coming out. But because it is that time, people would consider that people would die often, okay, or that they would leave at an early time. Like they weren't really paying attention to the neighbors until the the chain of events that led them to know that there was something going on. So there's actually a trigger of events that made the Bloody Benders um know that they were getting caught. So at this time, let me put it to you this way. So there was a woman who is traveling from Kansas to Iowa. Okay, so she leaves. Um, Unfortunately, nobody knows what happens to her. Okay, that message from Iowa that she never made it back to Kansas took a while to get there. Okay, so then once it gets back to her husband who stayed with the toddler with the woman's daughter, or with their daughter, like is actually, hey, you know what, like there's something going on. He spoke to his neighbor, his neighbor was Mr. York. Mr. York was part of the York family back then in Kansas, which was military family. Actually, one of them was a senator for Kansas back then, and he's actually founded the city of Wild. I think it's called Wild, Colorado. Wylde. So this was like that. Mr. York was a powerful person in Kansas. In Kansas, which this is where it took place. Um, so that man actually buys horses and a wagon from Mr. York to go search for his wife. Okay, so when he goes and searches for his wife, all of a sudden, like they don't hear anything about him. They don't hear like if he got there or not. Like they don't know anything about it. And again, back then, it took a lot of time for the news to go around that somebody was missing. But what helped was that because Mr. York was a very important person in that area, the neighbor of this man, people actually recognized the wagon and recognized the horses that were left on the side of the road abandoned and came back to Mr. York to tell him. At this time, nobody knew that it was the Benders. Nobody knew that it was this family killing these people. So what Mr. York does is he travels, right? He goes searching for them. He doesn't find them, but on his way back, instead of heading back home, the mistake that he made, fortunately or unfortunately, is that he stayed at the Bender's Inn. So tell me, guys, do you think it was like, how much of an accident is it that this actually happened?
It was faith.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you could say it was faith for him to die. Did he die? Did he die?
Yep.
Oh, no. He
Yes.
died? Hombre. This is in the 1600s, huh?
Yeah. Is this actually 1673?
It's a long ass time ago, man. Como te digo, güey, they sound a lot like la movie esa Texas Chainsaw Massacre, güey. Que los invitan a comer and shit like that.
Yeah.
It also reminds me of the pig farmers in Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like it's just weird, man, like how like because they actually got this people or him to stay in there, like that's how they caught him because this is an important man in that state, and they have enough money, I guess you could say, or enough power. Like that's what led them to their demise. Like if they would have let him go, if they wouldn't have done anything, like probably we would have had a lot more people dead because of this.
So because of that guy, they got caught because of the guy de la wagon. ¿Cómo se llama?
Mr. York.
York.
Yeah, because of Mr. York staying in their B&B. That's how the Benders got caught.
Yeah. So what happened before Mr. York arrived, like a few weeks before, a female had stayed in there and she escaped. They weren't able to kill her, but she started telling people about them. Now think about this, like this is already like about 5 or 6, 7 deaths in, and then this happens, and they were already thinking like, hey, well, what's going on? Like yeah, people are missing, like people are not coming in through town anymore, like, and this is all in a matter of 2, 3 years, because when we started, it was 1970. I mean 1670. I'm sorry, guys.
So what was the purpose of them killing like people?
Well, you see, the thing is that nobody knows. Like,
For
cause
shits and giggles.
So they didn't have a motive on why they killed people.
no, you see, because it is said that multiple people say that the one that wanted to do the killing was the senior. Um, they would call him Pa Bender, Pa Bender. So it is said that he did it for like the rush, for the adrenaline, like for the fun of it. But he wouldn't do all of the killings. Sometimes it would be the son, the one that would do the killings, which wasn't even his son, to what people say. Now, there's different people that wrote about their stories, and the only thing that is the same is the story of Mr. York.
And
So
what would they do with the
what other
bodies or what?
stories? What other stories are different than?
So the other before we finish off the story of Mr. York, so a lot of other people like say that there's 20 people dead, like 15 people dead before Mr. York, like that they would be carnivores, that they would feed off of people, and then they would like put them in the ditch. And then there's stories that they say that it was only the dad that would kill. There's some stories that they would kill the people and feed them to the next person coming in, and or the food that was to go, like well, not to go, right, but like for them to eat at the front of the house, was only human meat. But not anybody can say that it is for real that this happened. So even where it's set to be the area where this happened, it leads you to think that they're not sure if it ever happened, except for the story of Mr. York.
Órale, órale, I get you. Como haz de
So that
cuenta,
that did happen.
Yeah,
yeah, so nothing que los stories happen, just the one de Mr. York.
yeah. But um even at that, I don't know. This is where like it even gets worse. Like they were never. Well, let me finish off with the story of Mr. York, and then we'll get to like what's weird about it. Because it gets weirder. Like with them, why they were never caught. So Mr. York, and his two brothers, right? Well, Mr. York died. The let's say the younger one of the three, yeah, died. The other Mr. York, which was Adam York, he's the one that was the senator, and then Andrew York, I believe, was the other one, or M. York. He was a colonel, or yeah, un coronel, like for the Union Army, and he was based off of Fort something there, like near Kansas. So um they hear about the death, and they start investigating around the area, and people are starting to let them know like, hey, this is going on, right? Like, hey, like we've seen other people, like there's a woman saying that she escaped and they were trying to kill her, and so on and so forth. So the York family like took military forces to that town to investigate the Bender family. Now, remember, I said from the beginning that the mom didn't speak any English, or barely spoke any English until she had to. So they start investigating her, and she's pretending not to speak any English. She's pretending not to speak any English. Then the brother starts accusing her of the woman that escaped, and all of a sudden she started speaking fluid English. Like out of nowhere, she just started speaking fluid English. That it's not true that the woman had tried to steal some coffee, or that she was saying that her coffee was bad, and then that she was kicking her out. Um, but that was her story. But again, all this time, she had said that, or they had made it seem, or the family made it seem that she didn't speak any English. So what the daughter did, being pretty beautiful and being the sidekick that she was, she told the colonel, she's like, hey, you know what? Give us a few days, come back, and I'll tell you. I just need to speak with how do you call it, man? With my spirits. Let me speak with the spirits, and I will take you to the grave of your brother. But so the colonel was like, you know what? Fine. We'll give you 2, 3 days. We'll come back, and you better take me to the grave of my brother. So at this time, this is where the story starts. This is where they get caught, but at the same time, they never get caught. So they were made to leave the town. Like they left, they fled. The colonel came back a couple of days after. They searched the house, and in the trap door that was underneath the house, that room, there was nothing found except for dried blood in the wall and that smell that supposedly it's very very bad of liquid and other things happening in that air in that room. But outside, where Mr. Bender Senior kept on working the land, like they found the bodies, man. The first body that they found was a Mr. York.
So it was true then, no? If they found bodies, it was true then.
Yeah, but so they found the body of Mr. York, and they found eight other bodies. Oh, they found the body of Mr. York. Then they found the friend of Mr. York with his toddler. The thing here is that the toddler was buried alive.
La
She,
madre.
she didn't have no marks, man. Like they didn't strangle her, nothing. She was just buried alive. The 18-month-old toddler, and next to her, the person next to her was the mama, without them knowing that they were related.
It's crazy.
Como era la wife.
Sí,
Era
como
la
te-
wife del brother o qué?
No, no, no. So acuérdate, like the reason why all of this happened, like that they started searching for this, was porque primero se perdió la esposa del neighbor de Mr. York, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So, but nobody knew what was going on. So then the neighbor of Mr. York went out and también se desapareció. So Mr. York went out to search for him. And then because Mr. York passed, or Mr. York was killed, then his brothers, with all the money and with, well, not with the money, but with the investigators or with whatever, with the power that they had, started investigating. And that's how they found out that it was them, the one that had done all the killings.
So who was related to the lady? And the
The
child?
neighbor,
But he was dead too, no?
yeah, and his daughter was too. But the daughter was next to the lady, which was her mother, without them even knowing that they were related. Like, I just think that's fucking weird. Like, out of anywhere else that they could have put in her in the land, they put her right next to the mom.
But they didn't kill them together. They
No,
didn't
no,
kill
no.
the mom and the daughter
No,
together.
no, no. They killed the mom first. Then they killed the dad, buried the toddler, and then so it had to be months difference. Because
In
remember,
between.
yeah, because back then it would like there was no way of communicating how, like, hey, they didn't get here. So primero mataron a la mom porque ella viajó sola. Then el dad y la daughter viajaron solos, like or together. And then from there, they killed Mr. York.
A toda la vecindad.
But yeah, basically. But just because like the only reason why they were caught was because Mr. York coming back didn't want to go all the way home.
So he stopped because he stopped at their B&B.
Yep, and they killed him.
And the way they knew he stopped there was because of the carriage and the horse.
Yep.
Oh, I get it now.
So if they would have just let him go, like we could have been talking about the Bloody Benders like having like 50, 60 kills, man.
Pero they didn't know who he was or what?
No, they didn't know. Remember, the dad barely spoke any English for sure. He was like he spoke German. La lady, pues según no hablaba inglés, but all of a sudden she spoke English when she started investigating. And then the children, like the girl, well, she just cared about not having fun, but giving love and making sure that she had people over the inn.
Yeah. So the people staying at the Airbnb paid with their life.
Basically, that's how it happened. But it was only single people, except for the friend of Mr. York.
El neighbor.
Yeah, everybody else that stayed there was either a woman, or men, pero like not together.
Órale.
It was
And
singular people.
let me ask you this: do you honestly think? What do you think they would do with the meat? They would just bury them, nomás chingue su madre, just bury them.
Well, they said that there's that all the victims. This is another thing that supposedly everybody agrees on. All the victims were messed around with their genitalia.
In what way? They just cut
Like,
it off,
like it
or
was either cut off or parts missing.
I
Like,
guess I had a fascination with that.
yeah, like there was no bites in the body, but anything that had to do with genitalia, like it was cut off, like chopped in pieces, parts missing.
Do you think that they would do sexual acts with the bodies or the genitals or anything like that?
Well, there's no way that they proved that this could have happened because most of the bodies were very decomposed. But it is said that the both males were lovers, man, and that they liked men.
no? Y aparte es en los 1600s, güey. No existe mucho like technology or you know procedures to investigate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just a
So
pen and pencil.
yeah, so even at that, um, another weird thing was at first, like como la daughter daba como how can I not? It wasn't like a church group, man, but she would gather people around and she would talk to them and stuff like that because of how much everybody thought that she was a very good psychic. So everybody was on their side at the beginning. Like nobody saw them. Like yeah, they were a little quirky or a little off, but they were part of that. Like how can I put it to you? They were part of that not neighborhood, but of that county, I guess you could say. That people actually embraced them because they never killed anybody that was from there.
Sí, no, pues no. Because luego ahí es donde empiezan los problemas, no? Everybody starts wondering and investigating and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing is, so once the investigators came in back again, that they started finding those bodies, like they had fled already, right? So the older couple or the older ones fled to Missouri to that area, and then the younger couple fled to Texas because back then you weren't able to go into a land that wasn't from the United States unless you went with the like with the military and declared war on that area. So there was like outlaw counties where you could go if you were an outlaw. Um, a couple of years later, the women come together and they get caught stealing. Like they get caught stealing. I think it was in Michigan. They get caught stealing. They start thinking that they are the benders, like they are lookalikes of the benders, right? So they bring them back to Kansas to try to like check if they are the people that they were looking for because there's a $500 reward for them to get caught. The weirdest thing is that nobody from their town could agree that they were or that they were not the benders.
So they let them go.
Yep.
And ¿cuánto tiempo tenía, güey, que pasó esto? Que los pescaron.
Creo que era ya para el 80, 82, 84.
De 1602 dijiste, o 16 qué?
De 73.
1673.
Yeah.
1682.
Yeah. Around there.
Ah,
Like,
pues, yeah.
but nobody
Casi,
could.
casi 10 años.
Yeah. So nobody could testify or not testify, but actually say that they were or that they weren't. Like the same people that said that they were the same equal amount of people that said that they weren't.
And why do you think they couldn't ID them? Do you think they were maybe scared of them, or because how they were, like how supposedly the girl was like a psychic or whatever, that they were on their side.
No, man. I honestly think that it didn't. That it was just a made up story to find people that actually did what they did. Like
So you,
I do believe that somebody did the killing, but I don't think that it is how it is thought to be.
how do you think it happened?
Like I don't think it was a family that didn't know what they were doing, man. Because think about it, from the beginning, since we started, we said that the picture painted to us by what everybody writes is that they're dumb or not well educated or that they can't communicate. But they know very well how to work for people to come in and stay at their inn.
Eso por la daughter, no?
Yeah, pero por eso te digo, no estaban tan mensos. Like, they're not as dumb as they make it seem of how they describe who they are. You get me? Like, it doesn't make sense the crimes that they committed and how they went about it to the people that are described to us of who did the crimes.
I mean, all they did was just kill them and then bury them. Pero si tú me fueras dicho nombre, they would kill them and then chop them up into pieces. Pues ya se requiere poquito más que onda
Pues,
por los.
think about it. There's a trap door that only fit one body at a time, and that was handmade by supposedly the father.
Pero la trapdoor esa pa' qué o qué?
Porque los mataban en la chair. Haz de cuenta, como estaba la dining table, se sentaban ellos. Atrás estaba la curtain de donde estaba sentado el guy que estaba comiendo, el victim. And then from the back, with a hammer, le pegaban en la head. Si no se moría, con el hit de la head, like the young daughter would slice their throat. Or the daughter would slice their throat. So then all they did was open the trapdoor, throw the body in there, and at night lo sacaban por atrás y lo metían, like hacían lo que hacían con él, which that is not described. And then they would lo enterraban.
Pretty simple, no? I mean,
A trapdoor back then,
no nomás es a door. It's a small door or an extra door on the floor, ¿no dijiste que estaba?
yeah, it was right under the chair.
Ah, so the trap door caía para abajo para el basement o para dónde caía?
Sí, es como, ¿cómo se le llama? Like where you hold wines? The cedar? Cellar?
El cellar. Yeah,
Seller,
cellar.
wine seller.
Cellar.
El
But
celery.
yeah, but it was only made to fit a body at a time.
Ah, ahora la get you. ¿Y la chair? ¿Dónde quedaba la chair o qué?
No, pues la chair otra vez, like, haz de cuenta como nomás abrían la door, sacaban la chair y se caía la body.
Mm. I mean, I think that's capable of doing. You don't have to be very smart to do like a fucking like a hinge door.
There had to be a really smart one in that family that that did
Well,
that.
I mean, the dad is good with his hands porque he would work the field and stuff like that.
Yeah. I just like, to me personally, like, it's just very, like, well, también I guess because of the timeout, like it was just like, oh, they did it, oh, they left, oh, okay.
Pues
You know what I mean?
I mean, what else could have happened? I mean, le pusieron la corrida.
Yeah, like would you really leave for 3-4 days and then come back?
So they came back.
Like, no, like they told, like the daughter told the government of, or like the brother, your brother, the el coronel, like, give us 3-4 days and then I'll take you to your brother's, um what's it called? Donde los entierras?
Great.
Grave.
Yeah.
Grave.
Pero o sea,
And they left. Like, why would
So
they
she-
leave?
so she was saying, "Hey, we didn't kill him, but give me 2 or 3 days and I'll find your brother's body."
Yeah, because she was gonna speak to her spirits.
but it was all bullshit.
Just give, haz de cuenta, give us time to run away.
Yeah, like why would you leave? ¿Sí me entiendes? Ahora,
Because they're guilty.
no, not why the Benders would leave, but why
Yeah,
would
the brother.
why would the brother leave and like not leave him, like even have a watcher, you know?
Well, I mean, back then, I guess with like the whole talking is channeling spirits and all that, like people were too naive. They couldn't put two and two together. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
mean, it's true. Like they could have let somebody, but I guess the people were not that lively that to think. To think.
The brother was sleepy. He went home. He's like, okay, I'm sleepy anyway, so I'll come back in 3 days.
I think it all just depends on the person. If like if it would have been more lively, like what, I don't trust these people. Have somebody stay. You know, that's what a
See,
normally
but
somebody would
we're
do.
talking about an age in time or era where like they would use lanterns, man. For light. So I don't know. Está cabrón, güey.
Okay, so this happened in 1870, right? The females were supposedly caught in 1880, mid 1880s. So it is said, it is rumored that towards the end of the 1800s, remember in 1870, Mr. Bender was 60 years old, supposedly.
This happened in the 18s or 16s?
In the
Because you
16th,
said 16.
I'm sorry, 16th. Sorry.
Hey, goddamn, they lived for a long ass time.
Yeah, my bad. So, um, so, in the mid, like towards the end of the 16th, it is said and rumored to be that Mr. Bender killed somebody else with a hammer. But how would that be possible?
In the late 1600s.
Yeah,
I mean, he was still alive. No,
but you really think that at that time somebody would be able to live another 20 years after being 60?
he was 60.
Yeah,
I
he was
mean,
60 when this story started in the
I believe
70s.
so. I mean, 80s.
Yeah, I mean it's possible.
Yeah, they would work the field and shit like that. They were in shape. But that was just a rumor. They didn't find a body, or they found a
No,
body.
so
And
they okay, so here it is. They caught him, right? They caught Mr. Bender. Before they actually could like identify that it was Mr. Bender, he tried to flee. They shot him in his leg, and he lost a lot of blood that he started decomposing, and they weren't able to identify him.
so he died. That's how he died.
Yep,
Nah, eso no me la creo.
no joke, man. And
He's,
then for Mr. or for Bender Jr., there's no ending to him. The last thing that we know about him is that he went with his girl, like with Katie, with the daughter, to the outland in Texas or the outlaw county in Texas or New Mexico, that area, and that's it. There's no more traces of it.
I mean, I do think it happened, pero eso que I mean, nowadays it's hard for somebody to no, pues se movió para X, Y, and Z state or whatever. It's hard for somebody to keep that track. ¿Me entiendes?
Yeah.
A menos que seas el government. Pero back then, I mean, I don't think no, like now they moved over there. No, no, I don't
Yes.
think that was.
So there's no track. There's no trace of Bender Jr.
Yeah, no, I do think it happened, pero they just vanished. Se movieron al pinche neighboring town y ahí se quedaron hasta que se murieron, güey.
I mean, because back then it was very easy to change your name. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
would think, or just use a fake name.
And what made them
Not even
think
change.
that the one stealings were the Benders because of a mugshot or like a sketch or what?
Because of the knife. Remember, the woman would be the one that would slice, and they had a small knife.
Nomás por eso, like, hey, tú fuiste la que mataste a alguien acá en 5 states away.
Yeah, like porque robaban, porque los vendors, aparte de matarlos, se quedaban con las pertenencias. Like they would stay with whatever the people would bring.
Mm.
And supposedly, it is said that because it was two females, working together, like stealing, like personal belongings from other people with knives that they were taught that they thought that it was them. Es como lo del señor. Like because the guy that man killed with a hammer, they thought that he was Mr. Bender.
And how do you defend yourself in that situation or what?
No, like it's just weird how like I don't know how big the story got around the areas because think about it. Like if anybody would kill anybody with a hammer, then you would be Mr. Bender. Then.
Yeah. Okay, dice el guy, no, that guy used a ball pin hammer. Mine's a mullet.
No, they would use three hammers. Uh like a long one, then a medium one, and then a short one. And all of them would have a hit in the back of the head. The guy that died, the last one that supposedly was Mr. Bender, he killed him, hitting him in the back of the head, and that's how they thought it was him.
So that guy got arrested. The one they believed that was Mr. Bender.
Yeah, and he's the one that died, that his foot bled.
Oh, pues sí, he died, he died. No le queda mucho para vivir, güey, como quiera.
No, pues sí, como quiera se iba a morir porque no le iban a curar la pata.
No, tenía 80, ¿no dijiste? He was 80.
Well, supposedly, but if he was 80, I don't think he would try to escape. Like, think about it. You're not going to shoot an 80-year-old like trying to run away.
Hand me a gun.
Like, you're going to catch up to him, lo tiras y capaz si le quiebras la cintura.
You power walk next to him?
Yeah. You'll power walk and get in front of him, bro. Like, si me entiendes? Like, that's what I'm telling you. Like, that doesn't make any sense for that to be Mr. Bender.
Yeah. No, pues it was just the... Pues que es que antes había chingos de blaming, así como los Salem witch trials, que you could blame anybody and they would get killed or whatever. Así igual, güey. Me imagino igual que you could blame anybody for anybody. Un desmadre.
Yeah. So, it is there's a lot of different stories about them. Most of them matching like how they would kill in Mr. York's stories with together with his neighbor stories. And everything else is very sketchy. To the point that the land like the historical marker is is worded to make you believe that they don't know if it's true or if it's not true.
And what happened with the property? Like, is it still like up or?
It's not up. Like they made the land marker there, and then I believe they tried to replicate it, but the land is covered or there's no more cabin there.
I'm pretty sure there's like tiene un duplex or some shit ahí.
No, like and like I said, like if you actually go to that area, like there's a land marker there, and it's worded basically to tell you like if you want to believe it, okay. If you don't want to believe it, okay.
Do you have the what it says?
I don't, man. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Is it called the landmark? No. Historical marker, right? Let me see.
Yeah, historical mark.
Yeah, historical marker or historical landmark.
Near here, the Bender Mounds, named for the infamous Bender family, John, his wife, son, and daughter Kate, who settled here. Oh, it is 1870. It is the 1870s, guys. My bad.
Oh, 1870? All right,
Yeah.
scratch everything he said from the 1600. It was the 18.
It was 1870s. Just
I mean,
thanks 200 years forward.
200 years?
Yeah, from 1671 to 1871. That's 200 years.
Nah.
See,
All right. It's like 100 and something.
no, I said 1671, and this is 1871.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, I was thinking it from like right now.
No. Kate Kate soon gained la chingada. Oh, notary as a self-proclaimed healer and spiritualist, secretly the four made a living through murder and robbery. Located on the main road, the vendors sold meals and supplies to travelers. Their murders were carried out by use of the canvas curtain that divided this house into two rooms. When a traveler was seated at the table, his head was outlined against the curtain. The victim was then dispatched from behind with a hammer, and the body was dropped into a basement pit, later to be buried in an orchard. As more and more travelers disappeared, suspicion began to center of the benders. They disappeared in the spring of 1873, shortly before inquisitive neighbors discovered the victim bodies. The benders are believed to have killed about a dozen people, including one child. Although stories abound, the ultimate fate of the murderers Bender's family is uncertain. Some say that they escaped, others that they were executed by a vengeful posse. Their story is unresolved and remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the Old West.
I mean, I do think it happened. Somewhat related. Pero no sé, no se me hace como useful way just killing people. That's it. Like just kill them and yeah. There has to be a purpose
Well, I
behind it.
mean, maybe there were some.
It's always like a purpose to killing.
Maybe there were some sick son of a bitches that just got off on
I mean,
doing it.
that's a fact. That's a fact. They were sick motherfuckers, but I'm saying como que no sé, güey. I mean, they would kill them for food, maybe. Como estaban diciendo los rumors, maybe that for para la barbacoa next week, el
Yeah.
Airbnb, güey.
I mean, yeah, that can be a possibility. Is that they killed them, use their meat, and maybe made them sandwiches or something that they sold in that store that they had in front.
Una bologna de nalga.
But yeah, like, so you guys think that there was I do believe that it happened. I don't believe that they are the people that they said that they were. As in what everybody's writing about them, I don't think they were that type of people.
Like healers and like la daughter, Crystal Girl.
Sí,
Era
o
una
sea,
Crystal Girl.
ya, like, haz de cuenta como, ponle como la healer, ponle a lo mejor sí era bruja, güey, pero de verdad, ¿sí me entiendes? Like, no, o sea, no que tenga poderes, but yeah, like, she knew what she was doing. And like the son, he was a quiet one, maybe he was the one behind everything, you know?
Yeah.
Like, because he would see his dad work or whatnot, he learned from his dad. And maybe the mom, even though she was only the one that would feed the people and that she would be at the store, maybe she's the one that scouted everything, like woke up early and be like, hey, okay, this is the plan for the day. ¿Sí me entiendes?
Uh-huh.
And then I think they were a lot. I think they were, how can I tell you, man? Like, I don't think it was the people that, like, if they tell you, oh, that was a bloody bender, like, no se me viene a la mente la gente that they're describing to who they were actually. Like, if I actually see them, like the way that they painted them here, that the man would always grunt, and like that the lady would never leave the house, like that the daughter was always like preaching or trying to like heal people and things like that.
I
Like,
mean, that's believable.
yeah, but not to the way that they made it seem. ¿Sí me entiendes? Like, porque it's, to me, it's like the extreme side of who they were.
They turn them into characters.
Yeah, like, to me, that's what happened with them. Like, because of all the urban legends or whatnot, or because of the whole legend of themselves at that time, like, people made stories even more out there than they were actually.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
Than
this was in Kansas, ¿ah?
Yeah.
Si ahorita pinche Kansas está bien, como bien solo, güey. Imagínate back
Es
then.
la culpa de los bloody benders.
Pinches bloody benders. Había como 10 personas por town, ¿no? Antes.
Yeah. So, okay, guys. So, before anything else, what would have been your weapon of choice at this time? Like to do what the bloody
Like
benders did, what would have been your weapon of choice? They used a hammer and a knife. If you would have been like, why didn't they use this?
I probably would have used the same things. I mean, yeah, you could have used something else, but I mean, a hammer. With hitting somebody, you have enough force to kill them. And then the knife to, finish them off.
Me personally, um, yet incriminating, no. Me personally, I would use poison way, you know.
Off the record.
Yeah, after a record between me and you. Now, I would use poison way or suffocation way. If you hit him behind the head, that's too messy, man. That's how you get caught. Ay,
That's how you got
no,
caught.
yeah, nomás con la, ¿cómo se dice? La funda de la pinche pillowcase por atrás, boom. Or, poison. That's a lot cleaner, man.
But don't you think people would have started to, kind of uh, be like, well, why do these people keep on dying? You know what I mean? What's going on? Like,
Yeah.
how are they being poisoned?
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, rat poison or whatever poison. I don't know my poisons, but yeah, I mean, that's how I would like approach it. I don't know how effective it is, how quick it is, nada, pero that por eso dije like suffocation from the back.
But then again, I mean, in the time period, like you could probably get away with, doing something like that for a long time before getting caught. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but como dijo Quick, the smell, the stench, it lingers, man. Y lo antes los houses they were made of like wood. That blood se hace soak into the wood.
Well, you see, I think them cooking the people made more sense because that would drive away the smell of the dead people.
Nah, I mean back then I would believe, or at least myself, I think que las houses estaban bien separadas, güey. Like far away, so they
No,
couldn't
pues sí
really,
también.
like smell it. Como los fresnos, haz de cuenta. I don't know if you've been to los fresnos, que los houses están on the outskirts, están muy
Yeah.
separadas, güey. Like that. I picture it like that.
Yeah.
Y tú, Quick?
Honestly, man, I was thinking about it, and I would use a saw, like a seesaw, like
Un CISO del playground o qué?
number. I don't even know what they're called, man. Like the one. Have you
Un
seen?
serrucho, un
Seen?
handsaw.
Yeah, un handsaw.
Nah, man, that's too messy, man. What are you doing? You gotta get through the bone. O sea, por donde mero. O sea, like
Look,
right
well,
off the bat.
actually, instead of instead de lo que hacían las girls, like the women, instead of cutting like their throat with the knife, like el guy ya estás atrás, ya like pégale con el hammer, like noquealo y ya córtale. If you're gonna do something, enjoy it.
Ay, pues, nah, I don't, nah, I don't see that happening. I'll be if I see if this is just like a ¿cómo se dice? Scenario.
Yeah.
I'm not off the books or off the record or whatever. I'm chilling in front of the person on the table y de repente miro Quick que saca
El saw.
el handsaw. Nah, I'm getting up and walking away.
No, but remember they couldn't see me.
Sí, o sea, pero yo soy tu accomplice, güey. Si yo miro que sacas el handsaw,
Hell
güey,
no.
I'll get up and just walk away. Te digo, I told you to use a pillowcase.
You getting ready to cut some wood?
Yeah, it's too messy, man.
No, but I just think enjoy it. I'm just kidding.
Nah,
guys.
nah. ¿Y luego qué harías con la body, güey?
No,
Ya de
pues lo
una
mismo
vez.
que hacían ellos. Like, darles de comer a los perros y a la gente que pasa. Like, that I wouldn't change, man. It would just be the weapon. Like, yeah, the hammer, but the saw. The handsaw.
Pero pues, ¿qué es la diferencia del handsaw a la knife, güey? I mean, sharper, it gets it done a lot faster, I believe, pero besides that?
Have you ever gotten so anxious that, like, you press your teeth together, man?
No.
No, not her.
Okay, so I think that would just cure the anxiety. Like I think that that's how it would feel. So that would cure the anxiety because I suffer from anxiety.
Órale.
Like I think that would cure it.
All
Not
right. So
sure.
you're saying a handsaw, messy job, and then at the end just bury them.
Yeah.
Nothing special about
What
that.
I would do is I would make sure I had. This is I don't know if it's true or not. I mean, I've heard it in movies, and you know that if you have a pig farm, don't feed your pigs, and you can feed the bodies to the pigs, and they'll eat them. You
Oh
know,
yeah. I mean, pigs will eat,
so I would
anything.
have pigs.
Yeah,
In my property if I were a sick son of a bitch, like how these people were.
yeah, and then cooking for bacon.
And also think about it. Like also they messed up, man. Because it is said that they had like a large land, like a large area of land that nobody had claims to, and they only did it on half an acre. Like they buried the people like within like half an acre of the land.
You
Yeah,
do
I mean
nightmare.
it's pretty obvious.
What would you do with the bodies?
Well, I mean, like I said, I'd make sure I have pigs, and that's why that way I'd dispose of the bodies is feed them to the pigs.
Save on pig feet.
Yeah.
Any so guys, before we end this, anything else that you guys caught from this, or anything that you guys want to ask about?
Nah, not really. I mean, we touched every point I was interested in. So like what I was wondering about.
Yeah. Well, I what I'm wondering about is the motive. Of why did they do these acts? Like, was it maybe one of them was a witch that they were doing sacrifices? Maybe they were like devil worshippers, sacrificing bodies, or maybe they just were sick and twisted that they just did it for fun or for pleasure. I don't know.
So out of everybody that has like investigated or written about the man, only one person said that Mr. Benjer, the oldest one, the dad, he did it for fun. But only one out of many people that have actually written about them or investigated them has actually said that Mr. Benjer would do this for fun.
Sí, o sea, yo también me pongo a pensar eso, lo que dijo Nightmare, like, what was the motive? Pero, because I mean, everybody knows behind every killer, serial killer at least, there's a motive. They would do something to the bodies, or
Yeah,
no,
well,
no, no, no nomás porque they're fucking sick and twisted or whatever. Nah, it's something more.
well, the biggest thing here was that all the bodies, female or male, like they had their private parts messed around with.
So it had to be something sexual then.
Yep. Because that's the only like other than the head behind the head, because they would stand behind the person that was gonna eat for that night. Everything else was just their genital, like their private parts.
And is there a movie about this or a show or
There's
something?
well the Benders on Supernatural. There's actually a serial killer family named Benders, and supposedly it's based on them. And then there's a movie called Benders that came out in 2017.
Benders, just Benders.
Yeah.
I must watch. I'll watch it.
Yeah, I want to check it out. Sounds interesting.
Okay. Mr. Nightmare, you want to go ahead and say your social media, please? Twitch, Instagram, Facebook, anything where anybody could follow you.
Thank you, Mister.
Yeah, not a problem.
All right. So my Twitch is Mr. Nightmare 23. And that's gonna be all together, and the M and the N is capitalized, and it's spelled. Let me spell it out. MRNITEMARE 23.
Okay, awesome, man. Mr. Grimmzh?
They could follow me on Twitch also. It's Grimmzh 001, and I'm the person or the channel with 3 follows. You can follow me there if you want.
Awesome. Thank you, man. For me, it is on Twitch, SOV_quick. Also, this show will be posted on Facebook under Society of Villains. So go and check it out there too. If you missed half of it, or if you just want to go back. Any questions that you guys want to leave? Any recommendations for anybody else that you want to touch base on, guys?
No, is this gonna be like a series that you're gonna do? Is
It's
pick
gonna
a
be
serial
Thursdays.
killer? But is it gonna be just with serial killers, or is it gonna be like different topics?
Different topics, man. Anything interesting, like let's say UFO sightings, serial killers, people missing, things like that.
Oh,
Anything that,
okay, I got you.
and the whole point of this is not to be like, oh, I could have read all of this in Wikipedia, like put a little bit, like go more into like um just not even, this is gonna sound cliche because it's another show, but just give you something else on the other side of what these people actually did.
It's the conversation about it.
Yep.
Yeah, conversation.
Honestly, that is it.
No, I don't know. I don't have any questions, but I do appreciate you for having me as a guest on your podcast.
No, not a problem, man. Thank you.
Same.
Yeah, hopefully next sooner than later we can have it live, guys. If you guys would be down. Other than that, not putting you on the spots or anything like that. But before we go, guys, I do want to thank you guys for being here for the very first show. And like this story, there's many stories out there from our past that have not been introduced or talked about between our peers. We will dive into each one of these stories into detail and bring you hopefully a bit more of information and other facts that we have not heard from the inside and the outside of the story. See you next week for another story on the other side. Thank you guys so much. Have a good one.
Bye bye.
Peace.